So, amongst many other things, you created a fashion brand. What was that about? What was the origin of that?
I always loved fashion as a form of self-expression, as a means to communicate either a truth or an illusion, depending on what kind of mood you were in. But this like sort of second body, if you will. So I loved fashion and look. I mean, my mother was a big part of the reason I did, but I never thought I would go into fashion. In fact, I was graduating from Wharton. It was the day of my graduation, and Anna Winter calls me up and offered me a job at Vogue, which is a dream in so many ways. But I was so focused. I wanted to go into real estate and I wanted to build buildings, and I told her that. So I really thought that that was going to be the path I was taking, and then very organically, fashion, it was part of my life, but it came into my life in a more professional capacity, um, by talking with my first of many different partners that I had in the fashion space. About he actually had shown me a building to buy. His family had some real estate holdings, and I passed on the real estate deal, but we forged a friendship and we started talking about how in the space that he was in, fine jewelry, there was this lack of product and brands that were positioned for self-purchasing females. So everything was about, the man buying the Christmas gift, the man buying the engagement ring. The stores felt like that. They were all tailored towards the male aesthetic. The marketing felt like that. And what about the woman who had a salary and was really excited to buy herself a great pair of earrings, or had just received a great bonus and was going to use it to treat herself. So we thought there was a void in the marketplace, and that was the first category I launched, Ivanka Trump fine jewelry, and we just caught lightning in a bottle. It was really quickly after that I met my partner who had founded Nine West Shoes, really capable partner, and we launched a shoe collection, which took off and did enormously well, and then a clothing collection and handbags and sunglasses and fragrance. So we caught a moment, and we found a positioning for the self-purchasing, multidimensional woman, and we made dressing for work aspirational. At the time we launched, if you wanted to buy something for an office context, like the brands that existed were the opposite of exciting. Like nobody was,
Mhm.
taking pictures of like what they were wearing to work and posting it online with some of these classic legacy brands. Really, it felt very much like it was designed by a team of men for what a woman would want to wear to the
Yes.
office. So we started creating this clothing that was feminine, that was beautiful, that was versatile, that would take a woman from the boardroom to an after school soccer game to a date night with a boyfriend to a walk in the park with her husband, like all the different ways women live their lives, and creating a wardrobe for that woman who works at every aspect of their life, not just sort of the siloed professional part. And it was really compelling. We started creating great brand content, and we had incredible contributors like Adam Grant, who was blogging for us at the time and creating aspirational content for working women. It was actually kind of a funny story, but I now had probably close to 11 different product categories, and we were growing like wildfire. And I started to think about what would be a compelling way to sort of create interesting content for the people who are buying these different categories. And we came up with a website called Women Who Work. And I went to a marketing agency, one of the fancy firms in New York, and I said, we want to create a brand campaign around this multidimensional woman who works. And what do you think? Like, can you help us? And they come back and they say, we don't like the word work. We think it should be women who do.
Mhm.
And I just start laughing because I'm like, women who do. And the fact that they couldn't
Yeah.
conceive of it being sort of exciting and aspirational and interesting, to sort of lean into working at all aspects of our lives was just fascinating to me, but showed that was part of the problem. And I think that's why ultimately, I mean, when the business grew to be hundreds of millions of dollars in sales, we were distributed at all the best retailers across the country, from Neiman Marcus to Saks to Bloomingdale's and beyond. And I think it really resonated with people in an amazing way, and probably not dissimilar to how I have this incredible experience every time somebody comes up to me and tells me that they were married in a space that I had painstakingly designed. I have that experience now with my fashion company. The number of women who will come up tell me that they loved my shoes or they loved the handbags, and I've had women show me their engagement rings. They got engaged with us, and it's really rewarding. It's really beautiful.
Yeah, when I was hanging out with you in Miami, the number of women that came up to you saying they love the clothing, they love the shoes is awesome.
All these years later, it's
All these years
amazing.
later,
Yeah.
what does it take to make a shoe where somebody would come up to you years later and just be just full of love for this thing you've created? What's that mean? Like, what does it take to do that?
Well, I still wear the shoes, so
I mean, that's a good starting
um,
point, right? Is to create a thing that you want to wear.
I feel like the product, I think first and foremost, you have to have the right partner. So building a shoe, if you talk to a great shoe designer, it's architecture. Like making a heel that's 4 inches that feels good to walk in for 8 hours a
Hmm.
day, that is an engineering feat. And so I found great partners in everything that I did. My shoe partner had founded Nine West, so he really knew what went into making a shoe wearable and comfortable. And then you overlay that with great design, and we also created this really comfortable, beautifully designed, super feminine um, product offering that was also affordably priced. So I think it was like the trifecta of those three things that made that. I think it made it stand out for so many people.
Can you speak to, I don't know if it's possible to articulate, but can you speak to the process you go through from idea to the final thing? Like what you go through to bring an idea to life?
So, not being a designer, and this was true in real estate as well, I was never the architect. So, I didn't necessarily have the pen, and in fashion, the same. I was kind of like a conductor. I knew what I liked and didn't like. And I think that's really important. And that became honed for me over time. So, I would have to sit a lot longer with something earlier on than later when I had more refined my aesthetic point of view. And so I think, first of all, you have to have a pretty strong sense of what resonates with you, and then, as in the case of my fashion business, as it grew and became quite a large business, and I had so many different categories, everything had to work together. So I had individual partners for each category, but if we were selling at Neiman Marcus, we couldn't have a pair of shoes that didn't relate to a dress, that didn't relate to a pair of sunglasses and handbags all on the same floor. So, in the beginning, it was much more collaborative. As time passed, I really sort of took the point on deciding, and this is the aesthetic for the season. These are the colors we're going to use. These are fabrics, and then working with our partners on the execution of that. But I needed to create an overlay that allowed for cohesion as the collection grew, and that was actually really fun for me because that was a little different. I was typically initially responding to things that were put in front of me, and towards the end, it was my partners who were responding to the things that myself and my team. But I always wanted to bring the best talent in. So I was hiring great designers and printmakers um, and copywriters. And so I had this, almost like that conductor analogy. I had this incredible group of, in this case, women assembled who had very strong points of view themselves, and it created a great team.
So yeah, I mean, great team is really sort of essential. It's the essential thing behind any successful story.
100%.
But there's this thing of taste. which is really interesting because it's hard to kind of articulate what it takes. But basically, knowing A versus B, what looks good, or without A B comparison, to say like if we changed this part, that would make it better. That sort of designer taste that's hard to make explicit what that is. But the great designers like have that taste. Like this is gonna look good. And it's not actually, again, the Steve Jobs thing is not the opinion poll. Like you can't poll people and ask them what looks better. It's you have to have the vision of that.
Yeah.
And as you said, you also have to develop eventually the confidence that your taste is good, such that you can like curate, can direct teams, you can argue that no, this is right, even when there's several people that say this doesn't make any sense. If you have that vision, have the confidence that
Yeah.
this will look good, that's how you come up with great designs. It's a mixture of great taste that you develop over time and the confidence.
And that's a really hard thing, especially, and I think one of the things that I love most about all of these creative pursuits is that ability to work with the best people. Right now, I'm working with my husband. We have this 1,400-acre island in the Mediterranean, and we're bringing in the best architects and the best brands. But to have a point of view and to challenge people who are such artists respectfully, but not to be afraid to ask questions, it takes a lot of confidence to do that.